Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to FMA Discussion. This is episode 375 already. And today we have Sifu, Kevin Goat. And so today we're going to be talking about the upcoming seminar on Sunday. Those you might recall, Sifu was on before. I want to say probably about a year ago. If you want to see that entire episode, I'll post it on the comment section. That was done by, I believe, Tom Pena and Brian Rodriguez, if I'm not mistaken. But he's somebody I've been watching. Sometimes when I don't get to do these interviews, I'll try to go back and check them out and see if there's something that really sparked an interest. And sure enough, it did. That man was doing 2-on-1. You know how that goes with me. I see a man doing 2-on-1. I'm automatically intrigued. And so we were talking about it on the FMA discussion. There was a thread that was going, and this is what led to this. So if you're watching, tell us where you're watching from, smash that like button, and we're just going to get started. If you have questions, please put them in the comment section, and I will definitely get to them. And without further ado, here he is. Hey. I gotta run something by you, man. I get a kick out of this. It's actually a compliment, even though it might come across as a little funny. Yeah. I love hearing, man. Like, yeah. So you're out here, you're beating the crap out of him, you're looking around. Okay.
Yeah. See you later. Yeah. It's kind of like, and I didn't do it on purpose, but it was like everybody kind of needs like a signature sign off. And when we bow in, like that's how we bow in my program. So I was like, I'm doing this.
It's just so funny. I'm like, you take your bell off, make it maybe. Okay, that's all I got.
Yeah. See you later.
I love it. I'm a fan. I think it's great.
Right on. Yeah. Well, it's better than that like dust guy who has increase your chances of survivability. Yeah, or decrease them if you do this stuff.
So I had to let that go. So.
Yeah, that's funny. That's good.
No more sleepless nights in Connecticut. So, before we get into the seminar, this Sunday, I know you came on before. You might have. I'm sure you mentioned this stuff, that. But just those who are watching who perhaps maybe didn't see the episode where you were on, just a quick background of your martial arts.
Quick. Okay. Started off 5 years old. Taekwondo, karate. Took a couple years off. Got into kickboxing. Took a couple years off. Found girls' cars. Had a whole bunch of fun with that. Got into sales. I was just doing sales, and then I was like, I'm bored. I want to get back to training. Started training Kung Fu again. Kung Fu offered me a full-time job. So full-time job, taught that until I left to the military. Full-time infantier, no tours. Came out of the military. And I would say that's where like real martial arts started. And I don't like mean that in any disrespect to traditional martial arts, but it was more so like, okay, you sparred before, but now you understand what fighting and combat looks like. Let's start training martial arts that do that. So I was always a big fan of Shaolin Kung Fu. So I wanted to try out Shaolin Kung Fu. So that was kind of first on the checking list. From there, I was working with police officer trainer, Brian Willis, under Winning Mind Training. He was basically the main CBS guy, Calgary Police Service, for their training. So it was really great to work with him. I was working with the commissionaires at the time as well, developing courses for them. That's like our security within Calgary. And it became almost a full-time job, but they didn't really have a lot of work. I was doing some bodyguard work at the time for some political figures. When I wasn't doing that is when I was training. And that's kind of when my FMA journey started. I was introduced through Tom Gillis to a great man, Joel Hungar, who's watching from Cranbrook, BC. If you're in the area, make sure you go to check him out for sure. He's got a great program there with lots of different styles of martial arts. So shout out to Joel for sure. So Joel introduced me to Tom and kind of back and forth. And that's when the FMA journey really started. In that meantime, I got into Hapkido. I got my 3rd degree in Hapkido. I started doing PPCT training, which is all the police and the commissionaire stuff.
Mm.
From there, I went into Wing Chun Kung Fu. I got back into BJJ. And then 4 years ago, I started my own program. I basically took, as Bruce Lee said, strip away the unessential, train the essential. I mean, I grew up on those movies, right? So
Yeah,
to
right.
me, it was like, okay, why is he saying this? What's so important? And
Mm.
I was like, okay, this is important. Self-defense is important. And what I started realizing was a lot of people were putting out techniques that weren't working. And they weren't working because either strength was needed or speed was needed or technique or proficiency of technique, I should say. Um, so I was like, okay, well, let's pressure test all this shit. So I started going through and it was like, that worked for me, but it didn't work for somebody who's half my size. This worked and this didn't. And this worked and this didn't. And this worked. And so I just kept stripping everything away. And then on one of my flights to, I think it was either Sweden or Hong Kong, I had 8 to 12 hours to basically figure out my curriculum. It was always here.
Yeah.
But now, okay, let's put it on paper. So I put it on paper, and then I said, okay, let's go pressure test it and make sure all this shit works. I was lucky enough to get an invite to go train with some amateur and pro MMA fighters who are actually now in the UFC, some of them, and it kept me safe, right? I didn't get my fucking ass kicked by them, so that was pretty cool. And it was a real good learning experience. I got taught a lot from him as well. I mean, his name is Brian Bird at CCMA Martial Arts. Fantastic organization. Make sure to check them out if you're into the competitive side of things. But that's when I really dove deep into, holy shit, all I teach is self-defense, right? And it's different in every country and every law and everything that you go through. So without getting into that, whole spiel, I realized, okay, I should probably be calling myself self-defense, but self-defense is a mindset. It's a mindset that you train your martial arts with. So when I understood that, that's when I came up with the idea of Kung Fu. So Kung Fu is always in relation to martial arts. Kung Fu is the ability to master yourself, as we talked about on Wednesday. And I wanted to show all of my Sifu senseis, instructors, coaches over the years that I listened to them eventually, that they said, here's all this wisdom, take this wisdom. And I'm like, physical, train, right? And it was like, there was so much more taking place on a spiritual level. Wing Chun Kung Fu really did that for me. I mean, my Sifu out of Hong Kong, Sifu Chris Collins, you'll recognize him probably from his most famous movie is Ip Man 4. He plays a karate guy in it, even though he's not a karate guy. He's actually, in my opinion, the best Wing Chun martial artist in the world. So I went to all these different schools in Hong Kong just real quick. And I was like, okay, these guys are hard style. These guys are soft style. And I found Sifu's guys. I'm like, ooh, here's a nice balance. This is pretty cool. But Wing Chun and BJJ, they really changed how I looked at things. They really showed me there was timing. Like, do I have to always take a hit to give a hit? Because being 6'4" and having a 78-inch reach, I never really had to worry about that. I'd be sparring somebody and I'd punch them. And I was like, oh, that was close. Good thing I'm not short. Right. So it was super interesting because I started realizing, okay, I have flaws in my system as well. And I need to start incorporating some of these concepts from Wing Chun and BJJ into the program. And then the program evolved and got bigger and bigger and better. And then it basically involves all 5 ranges now. And it takes a lot to get good at one range. When you try and mix them all together, you have to have, in my opinion, the right mindset to train that. So, long story short, that's kind of where I'm at now. I got a very successful dojo of just under 200 students. Living life, man. This is great. I love this. And
I mean, if you got around 200 students, I mean, obviously you're doing something right. That's a great number to have in there.
Yeah, we just won Best Dojo 3 years in a row too. So
awesome. That's fantastic. Well, congrats on that.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah. It's so interesting. I don't know if it's safe to say that we all go through this transition because I'm going to guess no. But I went through a similar transition where I was getting systems, and then finally, like I kind of went into the self defense, towards students, unless they wanted like to get certified, something like, for instance, under Burton or something like that. Then, I'll give them all they need, the test and everything like that. But generally speaking, um, it's really gone towards combatives, self defense, with, of course, all the ranges, striking, clinch, grappling, ground, weapons, and all that. And
Yeah.
I don't know if that's comes along with age and maturity. I don't know how that, because I don't know if I did it consciously, to be honest. It's just,
Yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure. I mean, I believe the subconscious creates a lot of what we do,
you know what I
right?
mean? Like, yeah.
Like if you're putting it out there to the world, like I'm teaching self-defense, well, then you better be teaching how to defend oneself.
Mm,
But what I find happens, at least like in my kids' program, like, yeah, my kids are learning karate. I'm like, of the 8 martial arts I blended into this one, there's one move in karate, right? And they're like, oh, so what are they learning? And I was like, well, it's this combined martial arts system that's like MMA, but it's not MMA because there's no ref and we bring in multiple attackers or we think about having those multiple attackers. So again, it's everything started changing, but I think a lot of people think like, oh, I train martial arts, I can defend myself. Do you know
mm.
how many fucking black belts I've seen that got their
I
asses,
know, I know.
right? But it's because they didn't pressure test their shit,
No,
or
you know
they,
what though? And I'm totally with you and I agree with you, but
yeah,
and just by virtue of covering FMA, and one of the shows I did, I kind of wrestled with this, and is it, in other words, you're a student, you are putting your faith into this instructor who is feeding you whatever they're feeding you verbally and all that. So I guess what I'm saying is, while a lot of them do get their butts handed to them, is it their fault because they believed in this figurehead that gave them this, or when they're exposed to something now, if they go back to where they came from, now it's on you because you were exposed to functionality or pressure tested material, you chose to go back to where you came from, it's on you. But going back to what I was mentioning, I don't know, is it the student's fault, like if they get this false facade what has been instilled in them? I don't know, I'm not saying I have the answer. I don't know.
well, I mean, on a psychological level, yeah, it's the student's fault,
Yeah.
right? Because it's like if I point the finger back at you, there's three pointing back at me.
Yeah.
So if you're not looking at yourself 3 times as hard and saying, hey, what's going on here? You know, I got in a fight and I got my ass kicked.
Right.
I've trained for 10 years. Like, whoa, like this isn't right. Right. But if you just choose to point the finger and say, oh, it's your fault, you know,
Mm.
Sifu or teacher or whatever, right? Like, I don't think there's any onus there because their experience, maybe that's what they use to fight certain people and they won 5 fights in their lifetime. And they're like, look, I'm untouched. Do what I do. You're going to be able to do that. And it's like,
Yeah.
that's not the journey though, right? I mean, that's where you're kind of like taking away that martial and that art. And you're
Mm.
saying they're the same, but they're not, in my opinion. Like I love the arts. If we just
Mm.
stick with MMA, right? Just for people that maybe don't understand what I'm talking about, is in martial and art, martial is the combative side of it. Art is like the frilly dilly fun stuff, right?
Mm.
And it's like they both help, right? Like a lot of people look at Wing Chun Kung Fu, right? And they're like, holy shit, that would never work in a fight. I agree. Some of the stuff they do would not, but that's not what they're doing. They're building sensitivity, right?
Mm.
And that sensitivity is built. It's built through all the knife flow. It's built through all the stick flow drills. Um, but when we're looking at separating those two from martial and from art, is if you're not doing the research of what school you're choosing to be at,
Yeah.
and you don't understand that there's a difference between those two, you're probably just new to martial arts, right? You're like, hey, you know, I want to do something that I can get a little bit more fit with and I can have fun
Get
with,
off
and
the
maybe I can make
couch, get
family
out of the
events.
house. Yeah.
Exactly. Like that's great. Like,
Yeah.
I believe that probably 90%, or maybe even higher, 95% of martial arts schools do that for people, right? Because how often are those people going to get in a fight? Probably never.
Probably not.
So they're trading, they're enjoying themselves, they're having fun. I'm totally on board with that.
100%, man.
Yeah,
If we got them out of the
that's
house, got them to do
exactly.
something. Yeah. Yeah.
And that would be like the benefit
Yeah.
of training martial arts. Are we learning to master ourselves in that process? To a degree, yes, right? We're learning about proprioception, where my hands and feet are in space. And if I'm doing FMA, I'm doing that with an extension of my body. I mean, like the Navy SEALs say, like one mind, any weapon. So if I have, a 28-inch stick or a 6-inch blade, it's still an extension of your body. Do you know how to move your body to use that weapon? Guru Joe Hungar, he loves teaching kids stick mechanics first, because when it's outside of their body, they can learn how to swing, kind of like caveman swing, right? And then once those kids have a good base in their stick and they translate that into Muay Thai, into punching, holy shit, these kids can hit, right? Because they're learning how to connect to their body. Their stick taught them how to feel how their hips can generate exactly that whipping sensation, right? So there's benefits to everything. My biggest pet peeve, though, is when somebody's like, yeah, I teach self-defense. I'm like, well, what do you teach that self-defense base, right? And this is where, for me, I teach to the masses. Okay. I've, ever since going viral, I've really changed my mindset, how I teach in my classes, much different than how I teach online, you could say. But online, I'm trying to connect to 95% of the world. The people that will never go in a martial arts gym, that choose not to, they're just hoping they can watch my 1 minute, spiel of knife attack. And it's like, I'm going to remember that one day. Thanks so much. Like and subscribe. Right. And it's like, great, I got that guy. Right. But the 5% of the world, the martial artists, we're a different breed. We're a little crazy inside, right? Like, who loves getting their ass beat on a daily basis? Who loves getting their
what you're doing.
smashed with a stick, right? Like,
Yeah.
there's not a lot of
I know, mashed with a stick. Yeah, sign me up.
right? Please, me, sir, some more.
It's like tomorrow
I
I'm going
want
to beat the crap out of cancer, and their guys are gonna be bigger than me, and then I'm like, sign me up.
Yeah, exactly, right? But that's that person that wants to master themselves. That's that person that's like, hey, do you know what? Like, I'm good, but I could be better. And that's what I love about it. I think that's what's great. So when we're trying to sell somebody on our system, right? Like, they should want to do it, right? I had 2 trials of my adult program last night. I'm like, you guys have fun? They're like, yeah, that was great. They're like, well, sign up. I'm like, go home and sleep on it. And when you commit, if you choose to, shoot me a text tomorrow and let me know, right? Because I'm not going to hold your hand through this. I'm not, right? I will teach you things. You will learn them, but I can't go into your body and teach it for you.
Right.
So you're going to have to want to put in the effort. And in today's society, unfortunately, it's the exact opposite. Everybody is being babied, you could say.
No, the work ethic. And I know. You see it with the millennials in our country, and it's just not all of them, of course, not all of them, but
I was going to say, watch out. Technically, by 1 year, I'm a millennial, you bastard.
You millennial. But much to your point, hard work is, which was when I was growing up. I mean, that was just it. Like, it was just an association you accepted, and you did what you had to do to get where you wanted to go. Today, unfortunately. Yeah.
Well, I don't think that's bad, though, because people need short-term goals, right? I initially started my adult program with, I just have belts and that's it, because it's easier to arrange classes. And then I realized, I'm like, holy shit, it takes them 2 years, right? Maybe a year if you're training 2-3 days a week, to be able to get to the next belt, which is blue belt. So in that white to blue belt journey, if you don't have short-term goals, it's hard. Now, say in Tabuada Balintwalk, right? You have levels, level 1, level 2, 3, 4,
the groupings,
right? Exactly. So I think that's ingenious, because it helps people have a short-term goal, especially in North America. In China, well, basically any Eastern martial art, for the most part, it's trust Sifu, do what he says.
Yeah.
One day you'll get it. If you didn't get it, it's because you didn't train hard enough. It's all your fault.
Yeah.
Take some self-ownership and just be better, right? Like my Sifu all the time, he's like, Kevin, your chisao, it's terrible. Get better. Okay, so I go home, right? I fly back to Canada, right? I go train hours, hundreds of hours, 1,000 hours before next time I see him. I come back, he's like, it still sucks, right? But
Thank
but
you.
that's it. Thank you. It was better than what you said before, right? But that's that Eastern teacher where in the West, holy fuck, we gotta baby our students, and I mean that in the most respectful way. If my students are watching, good job, but train harder, right? Is they do need short-term goals because those short-term goals help students feel like what they're doing is right? Now, the thing is, are you doing it to make money? Because now we all know the story of the belt mill factory, right? All these McDojos that are going out there, they're just pumping out belts and this many classes earn your belt, right?
Right. Yeah.
But like, I've been a part of those organizations, right? I was the technical advisor and I was like, that kid doesn't have the skill. Don't let them do it. So they got to change and they got much better, right? Not just because of me. It was a great organization. But there's people out there like that have a kid in Taekwondo or let's just say karate, right? That's 10 years old. That's been training for 2 years. And it's like, how much did your parents spend on tests? Is that belt actually worth something? Right? Because the belt's shit. Right? What if that kid tries to fight a BJJ kid who's trained for 2 years? That kid's going to get messed up.
Yeah. Double leg, tackle, down, mounted.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Because your son's doing BJJ, right?
Yeah. And he's getting like, I tell you, that prick. He's trying to put his legs around me the other day. And I'm like,
yeah. I worked out today. That's it. No more wrestling.
Good job, man. Yeah.
That's nice. That's awesome. Yeah. I swear I'm not stuck. Dad can still beat you up. Yeah.
So funny.
So, getting back, right? Is it the student's fault? Yes, in my opinion, on a psychological level of somebody who owns everything and takes full responsibility.
But for their journey, I get it.
Yeah. Now, a emotionally abusive teacher or somebody that likes to manipulate them or take advantage of students, either for their money or for just personal self-gain, that definitely exists. I mean, we all know the FMA cult, right? Like, well, the FMA knife cult. Let's start with that.
Oh, I don't know anything about that, Kevin. I don't know.
Yeah. Of course. Right? It's crazy. You get people out there and they're like, yeah, I love this. I can't wait to do this.
I think it's that belonging to something, like they were an outcast or whatever happened in their high school days or before that. Now they belong to the tribe.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean? It's kind of sad in a way, that and the money they're spending for this acceptance and at the end of it, it's kind of a facade. You know what I mean?
It can be. It can be for sure. I mean, I don't want to say that the community that martial arts builds is fantastic. Like it's phenomenal, right? You will meet people that you will be friends with for life.
Oh, 100%. It's mostly good. Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
Right. But there is definitely, when you get to that cult atmosphere okay, so how would I explain cult the best? A teacher that doesn't like being questioned.
It's that I was in, I gotta be careful. It's that, and it's a very established hierarchy where you don't even think about questioning because you're here, and before you get there are probably 15 incremental steps and folks before you can even think about talking to him. So they make it that very chain of command and all that. So there's a lot in it. And I'm telling you, it's by design. Yeah.
I mean, look at any political government and you'll see exactly how they do it, right?
Yeah, I like the political views too, by the way.
Right?
I just want to get that out there.
Yeah. Right. I think we have to look at the system,
Yeah.
And as much as we're looking at the teacher and the teachers, because I do agree hierarchies make sense. Because let's put, for example, like, why am I doing 1,000 reps of angle 1 and angle 2? Right? You should be able to ask that question to a teacher, but does your teacher need, and I'm going to be just blunt, to waste their time and answer that question when you can ask your training partner or your older brother or sister, depending on what style of martial arts you train, right? Is you're asking them the question. They'll usually answer it somewhat correct, right? If they've been there. So I think that hierarchy to a degree does help eliminate how many people are asking, we'll say, the teacher the question.
Depending on, I guess, the size of organization, if it's
Yeah.
global, you know what I mean?
Well, that's it, right? Because there are a lot of places where, like, if I didn't know an answer to something, like say in Wing Chun, because I'm still a baby in Wing Chun, it's only been, I think, 7 years. It's like I want to try and say an answer that I think is there, but I'll be very honest with my students and be like, I believe it's this, but I'm going to ask my Sifu, and my Sifu will tell me whether I'm right or wrong or give me some deeper understanding. But it's because I've already asked all those questions myself, right? So now I'm looking for wisdom. I'm looking for guidance. I'm looking for a hierarchy to a degree, but it's when they start protecting the hierarchy outside of those limits of, like, you just don't ask those questions, okay?
Yeah, you don't question like the methodology. Don't
Yeah.
don't ever. Yeah, I've been through it all. I mean, FMA with that, and actually, I don't look at it as it was negative or God, I wasted all this time, I wasted all this money. I could, because that's actually what led me to me being in front of you right now. You know
Cool.
what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I experienced all this and I can call it out. I'm like, no, yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Through all the different systems in there. So that, and so there were some absolute benefits to that through going through that stuff to
Yeah.
find what you want.
Yeah. Well, and that's it. I mean, Edison said it best, right? Like, I didn't figure out how to make a light bulb 13,001 times.
Yeah.
I figured out how to make it once. I failed 13,000 times.
Yeah.
Ever since I heard that, regret left my building.
Yeah.
It doesn't exist in me anymore, because I'm like, even when I'm in a shitty time, I'm still glad that I'm here.
Yeah.
Right? Because I'm here. That's good. I woke up this morning. That's a lot better than some people, right? So now it's like, okay, so maybe you spent 20 years training under a certain organization and you didn't really feel like you did well because of it. But think of what you learned in those 20 years.
Absolutely.
There's always something to be grateful for.
100%. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. 100%. And I used to have that negative outlook, but then I can't speak on what the transformation or the change of the mindset, but now I absolutely don't. I actually glad I did. I mean, like, no regret, not a single. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And there. So yeah, I think that's absolutely correct on your part. Plus, when you feel like that, it makes you feel better.
Well, it does, right? Because you're like, I've accepted my past. My past is something I cannot change. The only thing I am in control of is this present moment.
That's
now
it.
I'm in this moment. Let's enjoy this moment. And maybe you go to another school and it's even worse. Well, at least you can leave them because it's worse than what it was before.
Absolutely. Yeah, 100%. And that's why I advocate to my students. Say, look, man, you are the most important piece of this puzzle. It's not me or the system. You are. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And your journey is, you get one. You know what I mean? And fulfill it.
Exactly.
Go seek out. You know what I mean? Everything. So what? So you got an FMA. I guess what triggered for you? And I'll kind of give you my story. But what triggered you to like want to dive into and find solid answers or the best answers that yielded the highest percentage of success with regards to empty hand versus knife?
X block to knife disarm didn't work.
So when the number 12 was coming at me,
I remember the moment specifically because who was I training with? He was a cop, right? So he's a cop, and we grab a knife. right? And I was like, okay, I'm gonna do like I'm fast, I got good skills, right? So I start cutting him up and stabbing and playing. He's like, fuck, man. He's like, you got some skills. He's like, it was hard to touch you. It was hard to get control of that knife, right? And then the instructor is like, okay, switch, right? He grabs the knife, and the motherfucker just like barrel rolls like right into me, tackles me to the ground, grabs a knife, and just starts shanking everything he can. And I'm like, my X block didn't work.
All that nice moving.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It was all gone, and I was like, okay. I was like, that was different. He's like, that's what a prison looks like. He's like, they're just trying to get the job done quick. If they already have a life sentence, they don't care if they get caught.
Think about that, man. We could throw them another one on them.
Yeah, well, and that's it, right? So like, violence was really the answer to get into it, and it was like, how can I mimic this violence in a safe way while training? And so I go into my 20 to 100% resistance rate, right? Completion of drill is very important for building skill sets, no matter what size or anything you are. If you're working with a larger partner and you're smaller, that partner should be able to discern which level of intention they're coming in with. So if you're, say, trying at 20% resistance from the bigger guy and the little guy is not getting success, the bigger guy has to chill out a little bit and go down to 15, maybe even down to 10, until the skill set, or we're just going to call the sequential pattern, has been set.
Okay.
So on completion of drill at 20% good, go to 40, 40 good, go to 60, 60 good, go to 80, 80 bad, go back down to 70, 70 good, go back to 80, go back to 90, go up to 99. 99 means you're still completing the drill, but the person you're fighting is an all-out fight, but you're still completing the drill.
Yeah.
That's not pressure testing to me. It's a very close level to pressure testing. Pressure testing to me is 100%. We're both going at it full out. Have your safety gear on, your glasses on, because you might get stabbed in the face, right? And you don't want to lose an eyeball here. You're definitely going to have a black eye. You're going to have a bloody nose. You're going to be sore. You're going to be bruised. Like, you're fighting at that point, but you're fighting still in a controlled manner, right? Because you still respect each other. And that's where pressure testing still, even though it's amazing and it's this big thing and everybody talks about it, like, did you pressure test you? It's not the same as a fight. Yeah. If you've been in a fight, you're different. You just turn a switch on.
No, you're right. You don't care for the person in front of you in that gap of time, and not where it's a training partner. So but I guess it's the closest model we can get up to, right?
Right. And it's not like I'm, I like, it's always in the comments section, like, I can't wait to go try this out. I was like, don't try it. Like, we're talking about a knife here. You think this is going to work? Actually, I got a funny story about that. We're trading this cop, right? Not the same guy, but we're in this thing. So there's like 20 cops. We're all doing this edge weapon seminars, what they call it. He does the course. He's good. He's big, he's strong, he's skilled, excellent proprioception, trained in other martial arts, but a fucking idiot, in my opinion, because he goes out and the next day on shift, a dude pulls out a knife and he pulls his gun out of good training and then says, you know what, let's do it. And he puts his gun back in his holster. He got cut 17 times. He got stabbed, like good stabs, like 3 or 4 times. He lived, he won the fight, but was it worth it? That face, exactly. That face. Yeah. It's like, why would you do that?
Yeah, exactly. Like, why would you, especially being law enforcement and knowing you're going to be scrutinized to the highest level, why would you that's insanity.
Well, but imagine it was probably his ego. His ego is pumped
sure.
Because he was probably top candidate, or he was definitely top third within the course, right? He did really well. He wants to prove it. He's cocking off all weekend to his buddies after the course, drinking beers. And he's like, like, I did really well. Oh, yeah, I bet you couldn't do it in real life. Boom, ego triggered.
And here it comes. Oh, here's my chance. Right? Yeah.
Here's my chance, right? And it's like, I hope he learned that lesson. But who knows? I mean, he might just be mentally unstable.
Yeah, not that I'm saying he is, but when you make a conscious decision to put your gun away and take on empty hand against knife when you are a police officer under that scrutiny, there's something not fully connecting.
For sure, for sure. And like I'm going to talk about at the seminar is it's like, if you see a knife, you obviously should be running, right?
Yeah.
Now, a lot of people are always in the comment section like, well, what if I can't run? Right? Okay, well, explain why you can't run. Well, I have a bad hip. How long can't you run for? Because if you can't run at all because you're like pretty disabled at that point, like I'm disabled, I can run, but I'm going to pay for it for the next 2 weeks, right? I'm not going to be able to move. I'm not going to be able to get out of bed tomorrow. My spine's going to be done, but I know I can run. I'm bigger, I'm stronger, I'm very, very well skilled and trained. So I could fight them, but I don't want to go to the hospital because I got cut. I don't want to get, tetanus. I don't want any.
I don't want to be
want
disfigured.
the street cred, right? Like,
the
Sifu got attacked last night, and he's alive and he's teaching today. And it'd be like, Sifu got attacked last night. He's getting stitches. He's at home recovering because his organ is partially damaged, and now they have to go in, and he's not going to be teaching for the next 2 months.
Yeah, sign me up.
yeah, right. Like, so, I mean, pressure testing was important. It showed me a lot of what works and what doesn't. I started stripping away the unessential stuff, and I started just training things that worked, but they didn't always work, right? Jiu-jitsu opened up my mind to terminology of high percentage versus low percentage. Right? High percentage techniques all of a sudden really took over my brain. I was thinking about it in the right way. I wasn't able to formalize it. So once I had my algorithms figured out in my head, I was like, okay, now let's go see what works and what doesn't. And if they're at a distance and they're attacking you, and you know the knife is coming, and let's say you can't run and you haven't pulled out your weapon or your equalizer, whatever, you're just relying on pure reaction, that's an entire seminar in itself. And every single style of martial arts is going to tell you something different.
Yeah, as far as the perception reaction and when to hit the gas.
Exactly. So one thing that I do is I talk a lot about situational awareness, right? Being aware of your surroundings, because prevention is more important than fighting. Now, people kind of have this misunderstanding of what it is, because it's like, well, if I'm standing at the bus stop and I'm looking around and then I'm checking, my 360 all the time, I should be okay. The answer would be yes, but you're going to be living in a constant state of paranoia if that's the case. Yeah, right. So you can do that, but you're going to look like a crazy person on the side of the road waiting at the bus stop, spinning around in circles like, nobody's going to kill me. Nobody's going to kill me. But it's just about understanding that, like, stand with your back to a wall, and then you can shut off 180 degrees of that, and you should feel more comfortable. Right? Have your friend stand to the right of you, and now you're at 90 degrees. When you get into a restaurant, sit at the back so you can see the entrance. Like, these are all the things that can help you calm down your nervous system so you can still enjoy life. But it doesn't mean it's perfect, right? You're going to let your guard down eventually. So the example I give my students is, okay, there's a corner. I'm walking by myself. Buddy's sitting on the corner, and he jumps out and he stabs me. No precursors, no idea that it's happening, nothing. And I literally start with the knife in my side when I drill. And that's what we'll be doing on Sundays. It's the knife is inserted in you. Your first natural response, unless you have a shit ton of training or have been stabbed before, is get that out of me. That's in me now. Get it out of me. And that's where I start. Everybody talks like getting that hand grab is very difficult. 100% it is, right? And if we look at the realism of knife fighting, you're going to get stabbed or you're going to get cut. So what if you could capitalize on a moment where most people would actually be in fear, or most people would be in shock? So what I do with my students is we start with that knife inserted into us, and then we say, okay, go. It doesn't mean that the person is stopping with the knife and just like a ninjutsu uke of just, here's my punch, do 19 different things to me. I'm not just clowning ninjutsu. There's a ton of martial arts that do that, right? But it's like, okay, it's you. They're going to try and grab your knife hand, and now you're going to pull it away, and then sewing machine. If their sewing machine isn't working, make sure to change angles, go high, go low, add in slashes. But that changes every aspect of the training, right? But I consider that worst case scenario. And just like 0, 20, 40, 60, 80, 100, right, is I do the same thing when it comes to attacking. When somebody is attacking you or you're defending yourself, you have to start at that base level. I always love starting worst case scenario, and I build myself up to best
Worst
case.
case.
Best case scenario, you avoided the situation.
Interesting. Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Best case. Yeah.
Corner, right? Military training comes in. I'm walking up to the edge of the corner and I'm cutting the pie. And I'm like, oh, there's a possible threat. Let's back up. Now I have time to back up. Hey, look, that knife's not in me anymore. Right? Hey, look, I'm running away. Or hey, look, I've been able to deploy my weapon.
Yeah.
Right. Like there's a lot of self-defense martial arts like, oh, I'd shoot that motherfucker. Right. And it's like, say in like my headlock video, right? Buddy's like, I just take my gun and shove it up his ass and shoot him. And it's like, that's on you. Like if you want to shoot him, go ahead. I'm not recommending that.
Yeah.
But if they're bigger than you, they're stronger than you.
You felt your life in danger.
You feel, and this is the big one that your lawyer will tell you, do you feel like your life was in danger? If the answer is yes, you can go to deadly force. Yeah. So if they shoot that guy and they shoot him and the guy lets go, technically they've done the right thing. If they continue to shoot the guy,
12 rounds.
Now we're getting in trouble. Like that one shooting that just happened in the States in the restaurant, right? Like that was crazy, right?
Yeah,
did he use force?
Yeah, it's a big thing. Like I tell them, say, okay, the person breaks your house, obviously, man, do what you got to do. So they don't go upstairs and do terrible things to your family. You're in front of Lowe's parking lot, man. You got to really assess, you know what I mean? How far you're going, least restricted to most restrictive. Everybody's filming and they're on 8 o'clock news,
Exactly. And I think that's why martial arts is so important, is the art side of the martial arts is going to show you, listen, the threat is done. You've been in this stress situation before because you've been through hard testing on your journey. And because you've been through that, you know what it's like to get there. So you know how far you can push your body. I mean, I learned that in the military. So we had 3 obstacle course that we had to do at the end. So there's soldier qualification, basic training, soldier qualification, infantry qualification. So you're doing like obstacle course number 1, pretty chill. I'm a fit dude. I did well, right? Second course, doing pretty good. Third one, you go through the first, through the second, then through the hardest one. At the end of it, right, they had ambulance sitting there and the doc's just sitting by, right? My buddy comes up. He's got a heart rate of 275 beats a minute. That's a fucking heart attack. I'm like, holy shit, like I'm breathing hard. I come up, I have a heart rate of 225 beats a minute, almost a heart attack. So it's like you're pushing your body. You can literally feel your aorta valve opening up as the blood is just pumping. And you're just like, holy shit, this is insane. And you're taking time to recover. But I would have never, ever pushed my body that hard, right? And that's what I do to my students. Every single test we do, well, pretty much every night we do, if I'm rolling with them, right, is I'm beating them. They're like, okay, I give up a tap. I'm like, there's no tapping here. I'm like, I'm not punching you hard enough to hurt you. I'm giving you opportunities, but you're stressing out because you can't breathe because I'm high mounted and one of your arms is trapped. I'm just smashing your face and you don't know what to do. You're going to have to learn to find comfort in discomfort right now.
In the chaos.
Right. And that's what's so important because a martial artist is going to be able to defend themselves, hopefully, get to the point that they get to a better position, that they've eliminated the threat or at least increased their chances of survival. So now that they don't need to go to killing, they don't need to murder this person. They don't need to myself, right? Like I believe that that's what martial arts will do for you, because in the class, that's why bowing is so important to each other, right? Bow or slap in a bum,
or some type of interaction among one another. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Right. And I think when we learn to find that empathy and compassion for other people, that's when we can really start noticing a difference. What I'm just going to label quickly as a martial artist versus a fighter. A fighter is somebody like I've seen dudes like curb stomp people, right? Like that's something gnarly to see. Like Buddy's up there, smashes him, knocks him out, puts his chin on just like American History X and gives him the old kick. And you're like, oh, you didn't need to do that. He was out
No, and that's
cold. Like, damn.
that's obviously sociopath versus, like you said, doing enough what you need to do to get home. And that's
Right. Well, it could be a sociopath. It could also be just what that person has been grown up
or
with.
instilled in
Heavy
over
gang violence.
a couple decades.
Yeah, true enough, right? Maybe their fathers just beat them a whole bunch. Like there's so many things that happen, but some people just do it to survive, right? That's why, like, when my buddy Derwin came back from the Philippines, he's like, nobody knew FMA. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm like, it's like the national art. He's like, when you go to Korea, does everybody know Taekwondo? I was like, the majority of them. He's like, when you go to Hong Kong, do a lot of them know, Wing Chun Kung Fu? And I was like, yeah, okay, I see what you're saying, right? He's like, so what? Everybody in Brazil does jujitsu? And I'm like, I don't know. Right. So we don't know. We make all these assumptions, right? It's like everybody in America just does kickboxing. Right.
Yeah,
and
right.
it's
Or box, right. Yeah. And the Philippines, I mean, we all know is Taekwondo and basketball, they made it a national sport now, and there's obviously very concerted effort over there by a few GMs that are really bringing kids up, getting kids involved, and, and hopefully they continue to do so. Yeah. But much to your point. Yeah.
Right. But I think that's why it's also so important that if you have the means is to travel to those places. So you get to see what it's like. Like my Hong Kong trip changed my life forever. Right. It was such an amazing experience. I was there for, I think, like 29 days. I trained 200 hours. I mean, my body still pays for it, but I busted my balls because I went there to go train. That took place of my training in a Shaolin temple that I dreamed of as a kid.
I know. From the movie, from the show Kung Fu, right, man?
Yeah.
Who did not want to be a Shaolin master? Come on.
Yeah.
I was ready to put my forearms on that thing.
Right. But I think that's what's great about, the martial arts, and for us to be able to find this kind of light ground of what are we doing. I mean, we digress really far, but at the same point, like, it's all of those things that got me to saying, okay, well, through your pressure testing, what did you find worked best? And what worked best was 2-on-1. There are many different variations of 2-on-1.
You're absolutely not getting an argument from me. I mean, I came from tapping systems. And so what happened, it was like I'm thankful now, but back then it was miserable. But I had a couple back-to-back knee operations, ACLS. So I was going to, and I was, at the time, I was getting certified in JKD. So I was obviously a liability on the floor. So I put myself on a wall for just the sake of doing something. I would have guys come in with a knife. Of course, I couldn't move. So the only thing I could do was, so just because of lack of mobility, that's what freaking came out. And this is circa late 1999. And it just kept going, but I couldn't make the tapping work. When guys were big and they were really coming at me, it broke down. I couldn't, like, if it was in a drill format, I could, third hand principle tertia.
Yeah.
I couldn't it just broke down for me. I'm saying for me personally, it broke down for me. If somebody can make it work, well, man, that's
a very political answer of you, Dean.
I have to be. That is.
Well, but that's it, right? Because we don't want to show disrespect to what was taught to us, because there is a time and a place for it, right? But if you found that's what worked for you, like, that's the goal. Is to make stuff work for you. You need to master yourself. So you can try that stuff, but all of a sudden, if your, guru is looking at you and you're not getting stabbed anymore, like, they should be like, good job.
That's the thing.
We're not doing that drill, but good job.
It's funny you bring that up, besides me being very political. No, it's just, which was very nice of you to mention.
I'll call a spade. Everybody knows how I feel. I don't hide it.
But so and mind you, this is late night. Matter of fact, the teacher, I referenced the J.K. Driscoll is the guy who's helped me Sunday, and he's seen this progress from like day. So it'd be kind of neat having him there. But
Oh, very cool. Very cool.
so I would get with other folks in styles who were doing tapping, and they're like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, you're not, how come you're not keeping the flow going?" And I'm like, "Because I'm not playing defense."
True. True. Yeah. Yeah.
But it
Well,
was like they couldn't,
you're
they couldn't wrap
fighting
their
it.
mind around that. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. And like that's what I love flow drills. I'm
Yeah.
not going to knock flow drills. It's a great way to build kinesthetic awareness. It's a
Mm.
great way to incorporate actual footwork. It's a great way for you to be able to build sensitivity and timing. I believe that they're necessary. But when you try a flow drill under pressure, it's always the first step.
Mm.
And is your first step good enough?
Yeah.
So, one thing that I teach my students, I'm like, listen, we have a 5-step sequential pattern. If your step 1 fails, there's no step 5.
Mm.
You're fucked. So, step 1 needs to be the best. Step 2 is second most important. Step 3, step 4, step 5. Now, the thing is a lot of people, when they're thinking about training step 1, everybody in North America loves step 5. Step 5 is your submission in jujitsu. Step 5 is your disarm in Filipinos say stick work,
Yeah.
right? Everybody wants it to look cool as fuck,
Yeah.
right?
Aesthetically
Because that's the
pleasing.
cool
Yep.
part, right?
Yeah.
But like I have assholes for friends, right? When I was growing up, and everyone's like, "Oh, let's fuck with Kevin. We've all been drinking, right?" So all night I'm just choking my friends out. I'm like, "Okay, you guys done yet?" They're like, "Oh man, no, I'm gonna get you this time," right? Exactly. So they come, but they're not doing shit, right? They're not doing following this pattern, right? They're
Yeah.
just trying to, stay alive or get Kevin. Who's gonna finally get Kevin, right? Um, but the thing I realized was they come in at hard at step 1.
Yeah.
They're not here. They're not allowing this, or this to take place. So, in my opinion, that's what the focus has to be on. So, when I teach in what's called hidden repetitions. Let's use some boxing terminology. Okay. Say my combo is jab, cross, duck, cross, hook, uppercut.
Okay.
I do 10 drills of jab. Good. Or 10 repetitions. Next, add in the jab, cross. Good.
Mm.
Next, add in the jab, cross, duck. 10 more. Add in the jab, cross, duck, cross. Add the next jab, cross, duck, cross, hook. We start understanding now, but what has been trained the most is the jab.
Good
So
job.
now your step 1, if you're going to hit somebody, has been trained the most.
Good job.
Because if your step 1 misses, there is no step 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's just 1, right? And I think that's where I love punching shit, always have, love breaking stuff. But when you break a board or a stone, it doesn't move. So then you go spar and you're like, oh, sweet, I can do this. Oh,
Mm.
shit, they move. This is
They
really
got their
hard.
head moved. It wasn't
Yeah,
there.
right. And now it's like, okay, so I have to get better at that. How do I get better at that?
Mm.
But when you're sparring, you're dancing,
Mm.
right? Most of the time, because you're worried about either scoring points, winning the competition, not getting injured, whatever it is. But when you get 2 bulls that want to fuck each other up and go at it, we get this energy coming forward.
Yeah, there's a lot
And
of
if
forward.
exactly, forward intention is everything.
Yeah.
And when you have good forward intention, and let's say we're the exact same weights, let's say we're 200 pounds, 6'4", similar understanding and training, we will have the perfect synergy of the energy matching and going into the center, right?
Mm.
But it usually doesn't happen that way. Usually the bigger person just takes out the little person,
Mm.
right? Even if this person is super, well, I'm not going to say super skilled, but is somewhat skilled. Now, if this person's level of technique is good enough to match this person's power, now we have a little bit more of a fight. And I think that's why BJJ is doing so phenomenally well in North America for sure, is because they're like,
Mm.
I have strength, I have power, I go to a BJJ class, I'm useless. What the hell? I've been lifting weights for 20 years for nothing. What
Yeah.
I should be able to use this. And it's like, you can against the right opponent.
I guess you're right. Yeah.
Right. And it's like, if that's not being understood while you're training, say 2-on-1 knife defense,
Yeah.
now we're not really understanding what aggression feels like. right? Because every time I shouldn't say every time, but most times that I start a demo, right? I grab the knife and I start a conversation, right? Okay, what should we do if a knife is presented? We should run. What should we? And halfway through, whoever's closest to me, I just start stabbing them, right? So I'm stabbing, I pin them up against the wall, I just stab, 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 stab. They're caught by surprise. They don't know what to do, right? I usually go for like a newer student so they can have that feeling like, what the fuck was that? That was crazy, right? Because all my students are smarter and they walk away from me when it comes to
you have the moment people that
like, oh, nice coming out. Senior students are at the back pushing all the fresh meat up front,
and this
right?
poor
Like,
day
oh, you
one
guys
guy
are
is there.
nice. Yeah, right. So, but because you need to feel that aggression, you need to know what
Yeah,
it's like.
I totally with you, man. You have to
Yeah.
understand it. You have to feel that, God forbid, man. And I like your steps there. My step one, if I were to take your method there,
Yeah.
and for association, what I do, my step one would be like the kind of getting used to boom.
Yeah.
I just want, getting used to coming in on that attack, like feeling that energy, feeling what it's like where you got to get in there and get your cross shoulder in there. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? But I do like that where your concentration, I guess I just never thought it in that regard, but I do
Yeah.
like that. Yeah.
Well, I think a lot of good martial artists do it naturally
Maybe they
because
just don't put in a sequential. Yeah, I got you.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
right. Because I'm over analytical, like I'm a
I
perfectionist.
wish I was more like you.
Yeah.
Wait a minute.
Yeah, where is that? Hold on, you mean knife just doesn't go in and out? There's angles? Yeah, no, right? But I think because I've been so analytical in my approach, that's what's allowed me to question, right?
Yeah, for
And
sure.
when I question certain people in the FMA community, I'm doing so with the utmost respect. But
It doesn't
it
matter.
doesn't mean I'm going to continue to learn
Yeah.
right? Well, to be honest, right? Like Gujo Hungar, like him and I, man, we're two kindred souls. Like it's awesome. It's super cool. When we get together, like, okay, we're gonna do some really nice balloons walk today. We're just gonna play around. I will guarantee 2 minutes into it, we're full out fighting. Right? We're just, oh, let's go, motherfucker, right? Because we haven't got to touch hats in 3 months, right? And he loves to push and I love to push it. So we go back and forth, right? It's like, okay, are we training Balintawak or are we just going to fight right now? He's like, oh, we're going to do both. Come on, this is the Joel way. This is
That's
the
so
Hungar
funny.
way.
Hey,
Well, see, okay, here, I'll explain that quick because you love it so much, okay? This is my hard side. This is my soft side.
Okay.
I first started training martial arts, I was told to hide that. Okay, so we don't show it, right? And you tend to see it like this quite a bit.
Okay.
But I really want to make it easier for my kids' population to understand why it is that we do this, right? So it's like, this is who I can be. This is my warrior. This is my mindset. This is who's going to fuck you up, right? This is who's going to guarantee I get home at the end of the day. My soft side, right, that comes in is like, I'm a really nice guy. I'm not going to try and mess with you. Am I perfect by any means? Hell no. I got so many issues. But I'm still nice. I'm approachable. It's like my girlfriend, I can't believe I'm gonna say this, right? She's like, you're just a big teddy bear, right? You're a teddy bear that can murder people pretty efficiently, but you're just a big teddy bear, right? And it's like, so this is what I want you to know is I am balanced, right? I would say if we look at the yin yang, I'm a little bit more black than white, right? Where some people are more white than black, right? But I think it's really important that thanks, Joel. Yeah, I know.
All the
I'm
things
trying to get
it's a potty.
yeah, I know you're just as bad. Actually, he's been really good lately, right? But yeah, it's that to me is it's important because we all need that, right? We all need to
We
have
all
a
need to
little
check ourselves. Yeah, I like
Yeah.
that. Like, making sure that you're not going too much in that dark, you know what I mean? Like I tell my students, man, that, at night, especially with Piper, like I tell my students, that look, this is a very violent, criminal-based dark system. I go, just, it's fascinating. The methodology is fascinating, the tactics, but don't forget where this comes from, and just you got to check yourself at the door because you start like man, this is just like, I mean, you're going to start going, and much to your point, this is going to start going into,
Yeah.
start disappearing,
It's a hard balance thing.
Yeah.
Master Corporal Robinson is probably a sergeant or a WO by now. He really showed me what that was in action, because I'd
Mm,
always been told this, but he had done so many tours, and I swear he was this. He was just a super soft guy the whole time. And then guys that went overseas with him are like, you have no idea what he's like, right? He is insane. He is just, when you are in war, he's
mm,
there. He is just this guy, right? And he used to tell us, I think it was like my soldier qualification course, right? He goes and he's like, there's a switch, Kevin. When you come home, you want your switch off so your family still loves you. Because if you come home and your switch is stuck on, and
mm.
you choose not to get help with that, right? You're going to murder them, and not on purpose. You're going to wake up in the middle of the night with PTSD. You're going to grab a weapon. You're going to do it. It happened, right? It happens all the time.
It's
But
terrible.
that's why people need to know that my switch is stuck on. If you
Yeah.
don't have the emotional intelligence to know that your switch is stuck on, you need help. And when you go get that help, that's what you're learning to do. You're learning to get that control. Some of us, like he was naturally born with it.
Yeah,
Nicest
but
guy
some
ever,
of those are
right?
not though, right? That they got to get it, man. That's like before you know it, like just tragedies, and I can't even just like, man.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I guess.
That's
Yeah, I
that's
guess I'm a little.
right,
It's
because we're
terrible,
talking
terrible,
about
terrible.
we're talking about defending ourselves 2-on-1 versus knife. What we're really talking
Mm.
about is attempted murder, right? If somebody has the intent of coming at you, that's really
Absolutely.
what we're looking about. And if you
Yeah.
can't go into that criminal's mindset, like you
Mm.
have to think about what is that going to be like. It's very hard. So you have to be somewhat empathetic to be able to be like, okay, I'm a criminal. I steal for my living. I stab people. I'm choosing to do this. And maybe it's like some crazy thing like, I got a family at home I got to feed, but I lost my job due to COVID. Everything's just so shitty in my life right now. I need to come up with money so we have food this month. If I fucking stab this guy and take his phone and maybe not even kill him, but just stab him, right?
Mm.
Now I'm going to be able to sell his phone and my family's going to be able to eat. Like there's something to be said about that, right? There's obviously the other end of the spectrum of they're just out to murder people, sociopaths, whatever.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean I'm okay with that, right? You may have a hard
Yeah,
time
right.
and
Even though
you're
there's an extreme
right.
desperation on the individual, economically speaking, right, doesn't mean that you are privy to that information. You're just seeing this incoming, and you need to eliminate the threat by any
Exactly.
means. Yeah, but
Yeah.
true. I mean, right. That's
But I think when
yeah.
you can go into that mentality, right, that's when you're going to start providing the right type of energy that your partner requires to know what this is going to feel like. Because if you're going to make a mistake, make it in the dojo. Don't make it outside,
Hell, one.
right? And you're going to make tons of mistake outside of the dojo as well. There's all going to be learning
Yeah,
opportunities, but
yeah.
inside the dojo, we're just trying to make that low percentage technique or concept to a little bit higher as the years go on, right? And
Yeah,
it's
refine. Yeah, absolutely. You keep working, refining. I mean, yeah, 100%. And I tell my students, like, I'm giving you what has come out the highest probability under whether pressure test, extreme pressure, helmets on, what yada yada. But I tell them, said, prepared that you're going to take one, but you're not going to stop. You're going to stay in there
yeah,
for the sake of seeing your family again or getting home
yeah,
and all that. But I mean, and that's the thing too. That's a whole another aspect to this. And what you start, tapping into the community ethics, meaning integrity and honesty. In other words, like, I just feel if you're teaching this, man, and you haven't tested fully or really just gone out with helmets and all that to provide or give some aspect of validity to it, and
yeah,
you
yeah,
haven't done, and you're selling to folks that this, I think that crosses a line of ethics when it comes to knife, or any other,
yeah.
you
Well,
know,
and that's it. It could be anything, right?
yeah,
But it's it's being able to think like, is this really what this fight is going to be like, right? And like there's that guy he was doing gun disarms, and he stuck his knife in the trigger guard, and he's like, look at this amazing gun disarm, and he stops it by inserting the knife into there. It went viral like a couple months ago because it was like McDojo crazy, and it's like,
Oh my God.
obviously nobody's ever done that to you. It's like it's just hilarious of all the stuff that comes out there. So, I mean, the only validity though is if you train it, right? Because my technique may not work for you. That's why I love being able to do a joint seminar with you, because some of the students might like your stuff more. All I ask is that you train both, and then don't just stop in 2 hours of training, because that's not enough. Right?
No. I'm gonna tell the same thing. Look, yeah, the folks I know that are coming that are associated with me, I'm gonna say, look, I'm doing this with this guy because I want you. You might see something that I might see something that is going to improve what I'm doing. You know what I mean? I'm still a student at heart. I mean, Jesus. And most folks know that about me. I don't claim, I just claim to work hard and try to improve my craft and be the best version of me. You know what I mean?
True. So true.
Yeah, I don't try to, but yeah, much to your point, they're true. I mean, that, and I kind of like it because you're going to go from, all right, it's in you. I'm going to be going like, I use the 3 E's, egress, equalizer, ethical obligation,
Nice.
And so it'd be kind of neat. I mean, obviously we're going to end up at the same point.
Yeah. Right. And how do you get there? Maybe you've eaten, 12 stab wounds and a whole bunch of slashes, but now you're here. At least you're getting an idea of how to get there, right? I did a private lesson this week. He's been learning mostly Blintwalk with me. And then I did, is that the video?
I think Noah is referencing the video, yeah. And
right. I showed him some knife stuff, right?
Sorry,
and
Kevin,
he's like,
I had to put this up, man. Like, there's no way I could ignore this. It's coming. Come on.
I can't see it. What is it?
It's coming now.
That's
coming.
Why we love you.
It's coming now. I had to. I'm sorry. Andre, the check, it should be already in the mail.
Perfect timing. Oh, man.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
But I showed him some knife stuff, and he's like, "Holy cow!"
And this is a Blintwalk guy.
Yeah, well, he's starting to learn some FMA, right? But mostly interested in Blintwalk. So I'm like, okay, sweet. So we just do some nice stuff. I just wanted to show him like some basics, and he's like, okay, I think I have it. I was like, cool. Like, he's a martial artist. He's been kickboxing for like decades, right? And he's like, yeah, I got it down. Well, I have the idea down, and that was a perfect way to finish the lesson. I was like, you're right. You have an idea. What happens after this is going to determine on how much you train, right? And it was like I just did a belt versus knife video that I just put out.
I saw
right? And I was like, everyone's like, that shit wouldn't work. I'm like, what would work? Running. Good. You've watched my other videos. And they're like, no, that's the first time I've seen it. Sweet. Go check out my other videos, because that's what I say.
Yeah,
right?
But what? You handle it so perfectly, because there'd be some guys on there who'd be like, well, what do you mean, it sucks? What do you do? I mean, like, they would just take it so, that emotional and get upset with it. You know what I mean?
I mean, a belt versus knife, like, I would never do it because I have my utility tool always on me.
Yeah. And I don't
wear a belt. I'm trained with that utility tool, but the thing that should be trained the most is running. But why do I carry my utility tool? What if my family is with me?
Ethical.
So now my family has been trained, right, to, live, right, my girlfriend, grab the kids, go to safety, try to get into the car.
You actually can't do a plan with your family?
Yeah.
Imagine that. Like, you actually have a plan with your I'm going to be covering that, but much to your point.
Yeah, right. So now it's like, okay, and now you have to pull out your knife because you're willing to sacrifice yourself with the hopes that your family will be safe, and hopefully your training will keep you alive. Like, yes, there is a time and place to fight, but most of the time you should be running.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And I think a lot of people, they build this false confidence that they shouldn't. right? So with the belt video, all I did was I was like, this is just an option. If you don't carry a knife, you can use this. If you, what did one girl, she was a fire swinger, right? She's like, I never thought about that. She's like, I've trained martial arts, and she didn't even know it. She's like, I wear a big ass cowboy belt buckle all the time. I could fuck someone up with that. Right. So the belt does give you range. Yeah. Right. But if you've never trained it or used it in that way, like, should you ever pull out a weapon you're not trained with? No. Right. But if you don't have any other choice, you can do this. So the amount of people that are like, I never thought of using my belt. I was like,
flexible
okay.
weapon with, yeah, that is so,
Right.
you know what? This even further compounds my reasoning for doing this with you, because one the three E's I mentioned to you was ethical. Like, you can't just run. You have an ethical obligation for your family, but now you're creating the egress for their egress while you're dealing with them and all that. And I've always been
Yeah.
curious how many folks that teach this, they dress that, like I do mock trials with my students.
Yeah.
Okay, there's your kids, and here's a guy. Okay, go. You're making the egress for them. Go. You know what I mean? Because if you're not even doing mock trials, wait, you on the fly? Oh, we know what to do. No, you don't. You haven't. You haven't. So
For sure. And I think it's like, that's great that you do that. For example, like within my dojo, we had a big class on Tuesday, so everything's packed, it's tight, right? And we're finishing with like a mount drill, so we're smashing them, right? And one of my students, like, I'm sneaky, right? So I'm sneaking around because he's in the fight. He gets to a better position and he goes 1 punch, 2 punch, 3 punch, and he should be leaving by now because I'm the guy who's getting his ass kicked on the ground's friend or girlfriend, right? So all of a sudden I see the fourth punch go, boom, I dive 10 feet, grab him, pull him down the ground. I was like, time to pay for that, because he needs to be beaten that was the wrong sequential pattern.
got it.
Right.
Yeah.
And I honestly think in North America, for sure, we need to beat the shit out of our students in the nicest, most appropriate, right to the edge way, because they need to have a shock moment and say, that was wrong. I'm not going to do that again because. And I did that to one of my newer students, and now massive trust issues with me. Perfect. Right. The second he goes, he's punching, he looks, he's like, oh shit, it was that. Boom. And his shoulder rolls away. He gets up. Right. I'm like, good. He did no damage to the guy, but he got out of a bad situation, looked for the multiple attack or possibility of, and then got there. Right. So you can do it physically. But the thing is, I think it's more important to do it mentally. Right. So after a hard training session, I always go home and I self-reflect. Right. And it's okay, what could I have taught better? What could I have trained better? What was successful? Right. And I'm categorizing in my head, yes, over 30 years, this is still doing this. I'm not flatlining with this. It's not regressing down. I'm like, okay, so now where am I? And I highly, highly suggest that to my students. You go home, and while you're in the shower and you're washing all the grossness off you, right, go and say, okay, what did I do good there? What could I improve? How am I going to get better while I'm training these things? Now, once you're kind of done through that process, now it's okay. Well, I'm in this situation. When could have it got worse?
Yeah.
Did my ego come over because they hit me a whole bunch of times, so I wanted to hit them back? Right? What if in that moment I shouldn't have been hitting back and I should have actually exited? So we call it our ROEs, rules of engagement. What kind of rules do you choose to follow? As much as Canada has some crazy strict laws about things that you can or cannot do, I will make sure I always come home to my family, or I will always make sure my family is safe, right? It doesn't mean I'm going to go out murdering people.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
But at the same point, if it's like my family's life versus the attacker's life, and they're so crazy and they're just going at it, and I have to end that thread, I will be okay with killing them. And if I end up going to jail, I'm okay with that. It's shitty.
For the family. I can't agree.
There's some people that aren't like that. There's some people that
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I mean, if it's a question mark of family, safety versus this guy who's trying to inflict harm, I mean, yeah, it's like not even like I thought. And right, you said if the consequences so be that I need to go away, well, yeah,
Yeah. Right. And your country and your laws are going to dictate a lot of that.
no,
And if you're a self-defense instructor and you're not teaching your local students to local laws, you're not doing them a favor.
no, I did, yeah, and we're actually, I wouldn't say each, it's funny, each state is different, and some
Yeah.
states are similar, but generally speaking, in the states, like for instance, Texas, I mean, you can walk around with a sword. Connecticut, yeah, I'm
What?
telling you.
Hold on. Like a legit katana, you can just
From what I
walk around.
understand, in Texas, you can somebody and also please somebody correct me if I'm mistaken on here, but in Texas, not only open carry, but you can walk around with a sword, from my understanding. Somebody over here after. Now, Connecticut, my state, and like you can have a knife, but it can't be longer than, I think the blade can't be longer than 3.5 inches, four
Oh,
inches,
wow.
single edged, and yeah, it can't be like switchblade assist, anything
Yeah.
like that. But yeah, but again, but in New York, you can't, in the city. Now, rural New York, you can have it, but in the city, you can't have it.
Interesting.
It's
Wow.
weird, yeah. But okay, Andre's saying, I believe you're right. It's as far as a sword in Texas.
Yeah,
uh,
there's a couple good comments there. Can you scroll up? Can I scroll up? I just
Absolutely. Okay, you tell me when to stop.
there's one guy that was asking about like a two-on. No, it's two
Oh,
on
that
one.
was Andre. Yeah, I
Yeah,
got to go back to that. He was saying, yeah, I think,
yeah, yeah. We're not clowning any two-ons. Don't
no,
worry. I
no,
don't need
no.
no death threat matches or
Oh
whatever.
my God, I challenge you. Yeah, it
But
was it.
challenge-
Two on.
yeah, yeah, right. Yeah,
I
there
do
it is.
know. I
Yeah,
do know
two
two
on
on.
one.
I do
I
know
know
two
I
on
have a
one.
speech impediment. It's fine. It's like one video I did. It's like, did he say escape? The video goes viral because of that fucking comment. I'm like, I'm not taking any
I'm
classes
not.
from a
I'm not removing that comment.
pathologist. I'm fine with that. Yeah.
That's funny. I
um,
do. I am familiar with two on one. Oh, that's
what else
funny.
we got here? There was one.
Um,
Oh, I can't find it.
should I go up or down?
Down. I'm able to scroll as well, so
Oh, okay.
I didn't realize I
Okay. I
was.
know I should have been paying more attention over here.
That's okay. We got excited. It happened.
Um, Here we go. This is a good one from Robert Small.
Ah,
Uh,
that's exactly where I am. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I completely agree, right? Is all
yeah.
things that serve a different purpose. Is your teacher actually telling you that they are different,
Mm,
right? Because I think it's super important that we get to the understanding of just know what you're training, and
mm,
then you're not going to build a cult, right? You're just going to tell people like, hey, this is what we're interested in. If you find a student that's more interested in one thing than another, my job as a teacher is to help that student get better. And if I'm not training more what they want,
okay.
they're going to leave eventually. So why not recommend a great place?
Yeah, they're gonna find it. This could come down to
There it
intersection.
is. I found it. Right?
Which one's that?
Here's a fun quote to debate from Kurt, the mighty brown man. Right? Is
Oh,
those who cannot
we're from
run
Alaska.
fight,
Yep. Yeah.
but you must try to run first.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, that's like some serious ass wisdom right there. Right? Like,
Yeah.
but that's the whole self defense world.
Yeah.
Right?
Anytime
Is
somebody's like threatening you, man, get out of man. Just get out of there. It's not worth it. You know what I mean? You'll
yeah,
potentially lose your house and what you worked for because somebody's calling you a name. I mean, no.
exactly. Exactly. Right. And it's like if you have that much of an ego issue, like don't spend money on martial art classes, spend money on a psychologist to help you,
Seriously.
right? Like it's so
Great
simple.
point.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
Yes.
right.
Anywhere go.
It's
Or
like
go
road
to the show.
rage. A guy cut me off. Yeah, and somebody was telling me, yeah, and I followed them and all this. I'm like, really? I'm like, you could have just like say, hey, he's or whatever, but you risked following him to not
Yeah.
knowing what could have happened.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. It's so great. Kurt, you're the rubber chicken guy. Yo, mad respect. That was a fucking hilarious video.
Oh, was that now?
If that's him, that's too funny.
I
Oh
am more
man,
than money.
rubber chickens. Yeah, he did a rubber chicken video defense. It was so awesome, man.
Oh, he did. Oh, I have to look. Okay.
Yeah,
I
look,
thought
it's
it's
so funny.
so.
I'm pretty sure it was on FMA, but who knows? There's so much shit out there.
You know what it is that as of late, there's been so much content coming to the group, and believe it or not, I don't get to see all of it because somebody might let it in, another moderator, and I don't get a chance to see it.
Yeah.
So much.
Well, and that's the way it is, man. I think it's awesome that you've built this awesome community and everybody wants to share and do things, and it's a really solid group, man. Like mad props and respect to you.
Yeah, in the beginning, like we're known for not letting any abuse go on there where people are just not getting trampled verbally or threatened. Now, there was a time when I was jumping in there putting out fires when it was like around the 3,000 mark, and I didn't have any other monitors. It was just pretty much me. And I'm like, you know what? I'm sick of this. This is, man, I don't have time for this. I'm going in here and like a sandbox wars. I'm going in separate. You know what I mean? So finally, I just I put really just tight rules down. There's no swearing at each other, no threatening. I had to kick a few out, but now I can honestly say it's kind of on autopilot. You know what I mean? Because people know, like, hey, you can't do that here. This is a different form. And so, and that's kind of what we're known for. Like, you can go to FMA discussion, express your views without being, ridiculed or verbally attacked. And I won't have it any other way because then I don't want to be like the rest that's out there.
Well, it's fun to watch those.
I'm not saying
individuals that love poking bears, right? But that's awesome. If you're that way, it's fantastic, right? It's like,
you know what it is? I just seen, you know why? I've been in so many FMA forums where you can't even get anything accomplished. Whereas if you remove all that subjectivity and all that, you can actually have great dialogues by people expressing their opinions and all that before all that other stuff. Because once that other stuff comes in, it's done. You think about it.
Well, there's only so much that you can do too in a post, right? Like if I go back through my comment section, right, it's like, well, what about this? And what about this? And what about this? Right. And they do all these what ifs. The thing is I actually care about what people think. So it's like they're posting and not expecting a response, but I respond. Right. And I'm responding and I'm like, hey, like, go check out this video or go look at this. Like, it's this big overall encompassing structure of martial arts that there isn't just one simple rule to follow or anything, because it's always going to be different. If there was one thing that worked all the time, every single person would train it. There would be possibly no war in the world because everyone's like, you know what, I know. There's no point in fighting. Let's just have verbal discussion. Yeah, right. But then you get all these keyboard warriors, right? The keyboard warriors come out and they're like, you couldn't punch your way out of a paper bag. And it's like, okay, well, come on down. Right. Yeah. Like I had one guy say, he's like, your shit doesn't work. I was like, come on by. And he's like, what? I was like, come on by. I was like, what do you weigh? I don't want to outweigh you by too much. Right. And he's like, well, I'm like 5'2", $160. I was like, maybe don't come.
You might want to keep passing by.
Yeah, right. But I mean, for me, I love discussions because these are the conversations I had in my head that I consistently probed and asked my Sifus and senseis. And I've been very blessed to have some amazing ones because they would tell me the truth, or they would tell me their truth and then tell maybe another person's truth and say, listen, like, I don't have all the answers you're looking for, Kevin. Eventually you're going to have to find them yourselves.
No.
And I was like, okay, well, that's why I got to do that. I got to find my own answers. But when it came to having discussions, you need to be able to put your ego aside, right? Stop the name calling, stop all that, right? And just like, listen, we're talking about this right now. Right? We're not talking about what you're talking about, which is up here, or another subsection of this section. We're talking about this specific moment.
Whole other context. Keeping them to stay on context. It's just
exactly. Well, it's like that one video that you let me post, right? I was talking about structure, right? Well, structure for powerful strikes. But because I didn't say powerful strikes, Whole comment section was like, well, what about when they break the wrist if they're sparring? I'm like, I completely agree with that.
Yeah.
Right. But I think they were expecting to get like a rise out of me. I was like, I completely agree. That's excellent. You put that very
Right. All right. I thought you were hitting yourself.
good job. Yeah. Well, but I don't care.
Yeah.
Right. Like, this is my thought of this. If you want to have a conversation, shoot me a message. And if I got time, I'll call you. Right. If not, like, I want to actually learn more. Like you said, if we're not students, I don't think we're a good teacher.
No, I totally agree. Because you know what? Because you're not out there seeking more or making your craft better. So how can you possibly 100%, 365 days of the year, give the best to them if you are not seeking the best for yourself? Like, how are you going to, you know what I mean? And, but much to your point, I totally agree with that as far as the conversations. It's like, you know what I mean? As far as getting things done, different lenses and viewpoints. And there's it's not that I don't let things get heated, but as long as they don't cross the line to name calling and all that, then fine. But the moment then you have to get in it. But look, knock on wood, I say it's kind of been on autopilot, which has been nice. What time? You got to go at what time? You got to go? Okay.
Half hour.
Because I definitely want to get to Andres. He brought up a great point, and that is the importance of which is especially with well, actually with anything really, but since the focus, I guess, for the seminars and being against knife, the focus on different body types, whether short, tall, weight, obviously discrepancy, and all that, and the importance thereof. That I'll let you go first.
So for me, it comes down into the stages of learning as a human being within the psychological mind. We have stage 1, which is the ability to memorize. Stage 2, which is the ability to teach what you've memorized. Mm-hmm. Stage 3 and 4 kind of intertwine each other, the performance of what you're doing versus the technique of what you're doing. If you're having performance issues, is it because of fitness or is it because of a technical error? If there's a technical error, say in your sequential pattern, now you have to go back to the memorization stage. So if you're, say, brand new to FMA, you're coming in on Sunday to do the drill, don't pressure test, don't go hard, don't go fast, just learn, memorize said technique, right? Like in one of my classes, say if we're doing a technique and we have 20 minutes to cover this, say, ground fighting technique. I have students that are like, okay, I'm going to switch sides. I'm like, how many reps did you do? And they're like, 3. I was like, you think 3 reps on one side is enough for you to go to the other side and train that? And they're like, well, what about, if I get attacked, right? And they're on this side. I'm like, that is a valid point. I'm not going to say it's not, but what you need to do is you need to build the memorization as much as you can, but memorize it as a concept. Don't memorize it as left hand, right hand. Memorize it as control the wrist, control the elbow. So at least now you're starting to think about that. As we talked about on Wednesday a little bit, is I think it's very important that we train with the concept of don't move the mountain, move around the mountain. So if I've been bigger, right? So because I'm usually the big guy, when I went to Wing Chun Kung Fu, they're like, okay, Kevin, you have so much strength. Like, try not to use your strength while doing these drills. And I was like, but you tell me to go hard. And they're like, go hard enough to complete the drill, but try to use as least amount of, we're just going to say muscular strength to make that happen. Not structural strength, not momentum-based strength, not energy, just, okay, here, I'm making Tanda work. So let's say I'm working with somebody who's half my size. I'm doing my knife drill, and it's very easy for me to overpower them. This is a perfect opportunity for you to get out of your hard and get into your soft and say, okay, what am I actually going to learn from this while training with this smaller, weaker opponent? Because it might be a dad and a son, right? So, and the son's smaller. So the son is coming with the most amount of energy they can bring, but now the dad is going to complete the drill efficiently using the least amount of energy possible. right? Now we're learning to be efficient even though we're bigger.
Mm.
If we flip the script, the smaller person doesn't have that option to just turn things down, to just bring that 10 down to a 3, right? They have to now have verbal and communication skills and say, listen, I haven't completed this drill once because you're way too resistive right now. I want to try and get more of this training because of my 5-step sequential pattern. I've got to 3 every time and I've never got to 4 and 5. And the rest of the class or the seminar is getting to 5. So calm your ego down and please let me get to step 5. If you have a training partner that isn't allowing you to do that, that's where I actually ask my students to have a conversation with me and tell me their experience. And I will go to that person and explain it in a way that's respectful, but also at the same point, like, listen, don't do that shit. If you're here to push your ego on somebody else, you're not helping them get better.
Yeah.
And if they don't get better, how are you going to expect that you get better? Right? Because whether it's just a father and son training at home, or whether it be students in a dojo, if anybody ever comes to me and be like, well, that's their problem, like they should, work out more, or, you should only put me with bigger people. See you later. I don't give a shit coming back, right? Because that's not the type of student I want.
No.
And that's such an amazing community in my dojos, because it's like, we don't put up with shit. Everybody here is to help someone get better, right? Even if it's that much, help them get better. And in that process, you'll learn how to get great. Because if you can do this and this is natural for you and your weakness is this, and you get to train with a partner who's mostly forcing this out of you, that's why they're there in your life in that moment, in my opinion. Because you'll always be able to turn this guy on. Then when you mold them together, size doesn't matter if there's good communication skills between those people.
As far as the training, 100%. Yeah. So my answer to Andres is, all my training partners that I choose to go with anything against knife have always been bigger and stronger generally. So I have to capitalize on momentum. When I'm coming in, I'm taking that momentum and I'm, in harmony to my launch into my disarm with my cross shoulder. If I park, what's difficult, I'm going to have to regenerate momentum, and usually rotational. So I try to avoid that because this is going with bigger guys. However, if by some chance the guy's smaller, as Kevin was indicating, not strong, I get really technical. Then I actually come in slow and just and that. So, but generally speaking, as you saw in Florida, my guys, they're generally bigger than me. So hopefully that helps, Andres. But that was a great question. Thank you.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Because there's a lot of people that are so intimidated to even start martial arts because of their size. And in my opinion,
sad,
should be training it the most.
That's sad, right? You know what I mean? Right. Like if they feel like, based on their size, they're going to be inadequate, or they're not going to be able to, that's too bad.
Right. Or vice versa. The bigger guy is worried about hurting little people.
Yeah, or they're so big, I don't need martial arts. Yeah.
yeah, you get that a lot. But I mean, like, BJJ has really sorted that out for a lot of those.
That eradicated that.
I love it. Yeah, I love it. I love it when a bigger dude than me walks in. He's like, "Oh, you're pretty big," and I'm like, "Yeah, like let's go play." Right? We go play, and he's like, "I'm a fucking baby. What the hell, man?" He's like, "You treat me like I'm like a 2-year-old child." He's like, "I will learn from you for life." Right? And you're like, dude.
Then you start to get him.
Yeah.
Now he's sold.
Yes. So I got it. What do I got to do? Right. Because when I met my Sifu in Wing Chun, right. He's like, "You want to get good at Wing Chun?" I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "Stop working out." I was like, "What?" He's like, "Stop working out. No more lifting weights. No more going to the gym." He's like, "You are so in your muscular that you have no connection to your skeletal." Right. And I stopped working out for 2.5 years. Right. And then finally I was like, I felt like myself. I was like, I feel like my Wing Chun is pretty good. My sensitivity has increased dramatically. I'm able to do things I wasn't able to do when I was using my muscle. And now I'm using my skeletal structure better. Okay, now can I start working out? And when I went back to working out, I could actually feel the muscle more. I could actually feel when my muscles were exhausted to a point where I was like, if I do another 2 or 3 reps here, I know I can, because I have a mentality of just pushing myself so too far, right? But now I go and I'm like, you know what? That's good. I'm going to stop at that rep, right?
Yeah.
I feel fine there. I don't need to get it up. I was like, I'm just going to allow that to pass, right? Because again, back to the self-mastery thing, that's all I'm trying to do. Can you feel your body? Right. And like my son's 5 years old, and it's been really awesome watching his kinesthetic awareness of his body increase as time goes on, because it's, oh man, it's such a gift being a parent as a martial arts instructor.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, that's why that kid couldn't figure that out, because they don't know where their toe is.
Yeah.
Right? They don't know where their knee is in space, right? When I grew from like 5'6" to like 6'1" in 4 months in school, I had all these growing pains. I was tripping on my feet everywhere. I kept breaking my toes. I broke an ankle, right? And my mom's like, "You're such a klutz." I'm like, "You grow 6 inches. Like, that's insane." Right. But I had to relearn my whole body. And as we were talking about, like learning to adapt to our pain, learning to adapt to do different things. Like there's certain days where I can do a ton of knife stuff. But this week in preparing for the seminar, doing a ton of knife stuff, my stenosis and my neck is acting up.
Oh, you notice my right shoulder just come boom. I mean yeah, like 2 days. I got back from Florida, and like 2 days, I was like,
yeah. Oh, it feels so good. It was totally worth it. Right.
Yeah. You know, but I definitely get, yeah, because when you're doing it, as you know, with integrity and full on, and like, man, it's a mini car crash. I mean, it's, you know what I mean?
You're gonna eat something, right?
Yeah.
And when you don't know, and BJJ, like for my BJJ white belt first stripe in my curriculum, the title is "Know Where Your Own Body Is," right, or your own knees and elbows, right? Because you always hear of the spazzy white belt, right? Oh, I ate this elbow today. I thought you were training BJJ. Are you doing MMA now? No, I'm doing BJJ. Like, oh, my eyes all fucked up. Like, what happened? Spazzy white belt, right? Because they don't know where their body is, right?
That's funny. I never
So,
heard that. The spazzy white belt.
oh gosh, yeah. Just go on any BJJ forum, and it's like the meme of the century.
That's funny.
Right. And then the blue belt is the teacher that knows all the things but teaches it all wrong.
Okay, so that's the blue belt syndrome. Okay.
Yeah. There it is.
The blue belt syndrome. Okay.
Yeah. But don't question the black belt. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow, that's funny.
That's why I'll be a brown belt for life. So I always have an excuse that I'm not good enough.
Yeah, I'm not. No, I don't know. It's wrong. That's, man. So, all right. So for folks, for Sunday, if you're watching this, actually, let me pull up this flyer.
Flyer.
Absolutely.
Nice.
Here it is, folks. So there's still time to register. All you need to do is just follow these simple directions on there. Liv, who is Sifu Kevin's right-hand person, will get you all set up.
Yeah, even if you guys like come halfway through the seminar, like say you guys are super busy, you missed the first hour, right? It will be recorded. So because it's recorded, right, you can still train the last hour with us. Dean and I have decided to do a half hour. So it's not like you're going to miss seeing Dean's pretty face if you missed the first hour the whole time, right? So we're able to kind of get it, which would be fantastic.
Be sick of seeing.
Yeah, right. But then you can take that and you can go home and train with it. I mean, if you're not sick of the digital stuff right now, like this is a great opportunity for sure. I know everybody was like super tired of Zoom and COVID and all that, but traveling to other locations is still difficult, right? And it's costly, like crazy costly. So I think it's great that we can do something like this and just, continue to spread Filipino martial arts, right? Because it's important.
And just think about this, folks. You're getting, if you think about, and I'm not trying to be a salesperson here, I'm just telling you reality here. You're spending $30 for basically world-class information from two guys here that have had multiple teachers and years of failures which I'm going to talk about. Like, this didn't happen overnight. It was years of failures that just gradually turned into success and more success and that. But if you were to go to a physical location for this, you would be paying you'd be paying hundreds. That's not what the travel, I'm guessing, you know what I mean? So $3 will come for your house,
Yeah, it's pretty sweet. It's pretty sweet. So
You know
yeah,
what I
I'm
mean?
really looking forward to it. I'm looking really forward to like your stuff as well. Like I told my students, I was like, listen, when Dean's teaching, I'm a student, okay? So like don't ask me questions because I don't know what he's gonna fucking
It'll be
teach.
the
So
same thing. Yeah. Like I like you went through there and you're gonna start right here.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, I'll talk about the things that I like to do, but it will be maybe 2-3 minutes of just training,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah.
Because it's nice to throw some knowledge out there, like you said.
I think so.
But
Yeah.
it just comes down to what it is that you feel most comfortable with. And I hope that everybody just comes with the idea that you're just a sponge and you're going to absorb it. And if your sponge is dry and full of a whole bunch of stuff that you don't want to let go, that's fine. But hopefully it has a little bit in there so you can take something, even if it's just a concept or, even if it's just laughing at our terrible jokes, at least it's better than, sitting on your couch.
Yeah. And there's yes, it will be. And you'll be able, yeah. I'm trying to think here.
Yeah,
How
if I'm
to
not mistaken, Jack, what would
Yeah,
happen is you would then just pay for the seminar and then it
correct.
would be emailed to you.
Yeah, so upon the conclusion of the seminar, I'm basically be downloading, which will be then put on Google Drive.
Okay.
And then I'm gonna create a Facebook group for all those attended. Those who are not on
Nice.
Facebook Messenger, I can then send to email. So Jack, hopefully that helps. But yeah, absolutely, you can
I didn't
definitely
even
get
know
the
that.
post recording. Yeah. All right. Yeah, I'm looking for it. It's gonna be fun, and it's been the thing about it too is like there was a lot of online stuff during the COVID, but now that everybody's been back, it's everybody's been kind of back in action now. It's been we're going on, I don't know, it's been at least 9 months or so or something, whatever, like kicked in maybe close to a year. So I think the timing's right. You know what I mean? Where there's been some removal time separation from the flooding of the online.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it's definitely starting to pick up a little bit more now. The biggest place that I watch for that is just the BJJ community because
Okay.
COVID hit and it was just like
They must have got
free BJJ stuff for the rest of your life, right? And it's like
yeah.
everybody got so sick of it. I mean, we actually ended up launching our digital seminar for my self-defense curriculum with the Budo brothers right at that time where it was like everything was full. So sales were like super low, but we're starting to notice that sales are now picking up again, right? Which is
Oh, okay.
nice. Right?
Oh,
So
fantastic.
it's all those little things that we're trying to do. I mean, it's also exposure, right? And that's one
Yeah.
thing that I want to try and do is as much as I may not be a traditional martial artist anymore, I am in certain aspects and avenues. One thing I always want to try and do is continue to spread the thing that helped me the most in my life, which was martial arts. Right. So if somebody really speaks to the FMA world and they do this nice seminar and then they're going to their local place and they found FMA, like that's what it's about for me more than
Yeah.
anything. Right. Because it's important, right? It's important that people find a vessel so that they can have good balance in their life on a mental and physical and spiritual level. Right. And I think when we find an outlet that allows us to do that, that's in an awesome, safe community and environment, I think it's great. I mean, to be honest, the world isn't getting any safer. So hopefully there is a lot of people who actually wants to start learning
Yeah.
self-defense,
It's
right?
scary times coming ahead, pending, I don't know.
Who knows? Who knows, right? But that's why it's I think it's great that we can push it out there. And at $30, like Dean said, it's a steal of a deal, right? But
Yeah.
that's because we're doing this because we wanna help people. We
Yeah.
want you guys to come away with something great here. So
Yeah.
hopefully you
Trust
do.
me, we're not gonna be, we're not gonna be going on vacation after this. I mean,
Well, I might. Who knows?
yeah. Yeah.
Not from the money. Not from the money. From all the fucking shit we've had to do to get it ready.
I'm telling you,
I don't like
folks.
working. I like teaching. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, this is a bargain, you know. Awesome, awesome. Well, hey, it looks like I'm going to be seeing you obviously Sunday.
On
Um,
Sunday. Sounds great.
yeah, so I'll definitely I'll be in the room. We're going on at 12 o'clock your time.
Yeah, 12 o'clock
Yeah,
my time, Mountain Standard Time, or sorry, General Mountain Time, whatever you want to call it these days.
yeah, and
Calgary time. Calgary time
Calgary
is
time.
12. Edmonton, for the people who are trading Edmonton,
Yeah,
12. You guys got it.
yes,
Cranbrook, 12. It's the same.
12. If you're in New York, New York
Yeah,
time, East Coast, it will
nice.
be 12 o'clock for you guys. For no, I'm sorry, it'll be
Thanks,
2
Brett.
o'clock for us. 2. All right. Hey, Brett, thank you. Absolutely. Um, awesome, sir. Hey, well, you have a great rest of the night, Sarah, and tomorrow, and I will be seeing you Sunday.
Awesome. Sounds great, Dean.
All right. Pleasure as always. I'm glad this happened. It was enjoyable talking to you. So,
Yeah, yeah. Always fun. Good laughs, good times.
yeah, I know. Okay. I got to do it, man. I
All
got to
right, you
do
gotta do it. You gotta do it. Awesome. All right, take care,
it.
guys.
All
Everybody,
right. You
train your
take
ass off.
care.
All right,
All right.
later.
Bye. All right, it wraps up 375. Got a couple more coming up to conclude the month of February. And those guests are we got Belton, Lubas, Trinidad on VTK, and I think a couple more. Sifu Colby, I think Brian Rodriguez got him, and might be one other. But anyway, definitely more interviews to come, and that will be occurring. Thinking probably Tuesday and Wednesday will be the next one. If you're not doing anything Monday night, Tim Hartman will be interviewing me. Um, kind of what's next for Dean Franco, as far as FMA discussion and what I'm going to be doing and all that. So that's going to be at 8:30 Monday night with Tim Hartman. So if you're not doing anything, you want to check out what I'm going to be talking about as far as future tense and all that, you might find it interesting, or you might not. So, but at any rate, Sunday, if you have an interest in a seminar, right there, you can message me, or better yet, you can message Kevin, and he'll get you set up as far as how to get registered and so forth. But anyway, all right, folks, thank you for all that tuned in and watched, and we'll see you guys next time.